Hello, everyone.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Flat Out Insights on Take on the World TV. I am your host, Chris, with my co-host, Michael Solomon. And tonight we have a super special guest, Mr. Paul on the plane, joining us in the house. So, man, we've got a great show for you guys. We've actually been trying to get Paul on a show, man, I think for like, ever since Take on the World 19, we've been trying to do a show. And this one actually worked out. We tried to do it at 3 o'clock today. Michael had to go grocery shopping, and
Yeah,
he was not
fun.
practicing social distancing very well.
No, I was not.
And so he was giving people hugs and high fives and all
That's
sorts of
right.
stuff. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm not.
But yeah, so we're gonna get into all that. We're gonna be talking about faking space, flat Earth, COVID-19, 5G, QAnon. Man, we got it all. So tonight it's gonna be special. So hey guys, if you guys are in the chat, I know it's late. Go tell somebody, get this word out, and we'll go ahead and start with that. So Paul, for our listeners who may not know you, start out with a little bit about how you got into even if people have been following Paul on Plane. If you're not doing that, go to Paul on the Plane on Facebook, and you can start following Paul on Plane right on. But why don't you share a little bit about how you came to the topic of great conspiracy, which was flat Earth, to a series called Faking Space, which is absolutely stellar. And if we had real awards, you would win best award for proof series. So.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This is really an honor. Yeah, we've seemed like we've tried to schedule it a few times and stuff happened. Glad we finally got it scheduled. So anyway, I can't wait to have this conversation with you guys. It seems like a million years ago now. There's so much going on in the world, and thinking about this grand conversation that we've been having for so long. It seems like with all the stuff that's going on right now, it's like, what? Oh, that's right. I forgot about faking space. That's right. Is that even still online?
Yeah, right.
There's just the topics that we cover now or that we're interested in are just, going through the roof right now. There's so many new rabbit trails to follow, etc. So for me, it was October 2016. My wife came home and said, did you know that there's people out there that think the earth is flat? And I went, scoffed like we all do when we first hear those two words put together. And that was it. We had kind of a chuckle about it and went about dinner and that sort of thing. But it planted a seed in my mind. As I tell people, it was just, there's something that planted in my mind. And a couple of days later, I was online Googling it, and it was just pure curiosity for me. I was like, how can people, in this day and age that we live, with these pictures that we have from space, how can people think that the earth is anything but this sphere, orbiting, rotating, flying through space? And so it was pure curiosity. I started to go down that rabbit hole, and I was a quick convert. It was probably a couple of days, couple of sleepless nights, just binge watching all the content, that I could. And I just remember going, gosh, it just makes so much sense, and then you stumble across the 120 verses plus, in scripture that support a geocentric stationary realm of existence. And that was kind of like the icing on the cake. You're like, oh, how did I miss that? So that's really where it began for me. And so when we got into kind of the summer of 2017, I guess, spring of 2017. So I guess probably about this time, 3 years ago, this time of year, I got introduced to a gentleman by the name of Archer Sage. And he was doing a lot with these images that we get from satellites and things of that nature. And I was very interested in some of the work that he had been doing, and I was starting to make videos and started to have a channel and was getting into photography because I got my Nikon P900. It's one of the first things I did is I went out and bought that and started looking at long distance photography, seeing how far I could see, right? Because you have to see it for yourself. And so I connected with him, and he started showing me some of the FTP servers that he had found. And he was really the original, the backbone of the series. I just was, somebody that kind of came along and said, show me what you got. And then we need to get this out there, and he had done a couple of videos online, but I had got a my YouTube channel. I had put together a video from the MythBusters, the Flight of Fantasy, where I don't know if you guys have seen that, where Adam Savage is in a U-2 spy plane, and at every different altitude that they're at, you see the fisheye lens, and then when they're banking around, the Earth is like curving, and then it goes flat, and it curves and goes flat. And so I did a video just exposing that, just saying, hey, this is. I didn't really say anything other than, this is lens distortion. You got to admit that, that was really what the video was about. And it got like 300,000 views really quickly. And so my channel, really kind of blew up over the course of a month or two. And this was in the summer of 2017. And so when we started to go through this stuff, he was like, let's use your channel and we'll put these videos together and create a series and, get this exposed. And that's what we did. So we started making videos, and we started going through the different satellites. We spent probably, if not hundreds, probably it seemed like thousands of hours online going through the FTP servers, looking at the Discover satellite, the LRO, the Electro L, and looking at all the different, the Himawari, looking at all the different images that we were getting, and started to see if these things reconciled. And that's what we saw, was this huge lack of reconciliation. We started dropping these images into, photo editing programs and adjusting the levels, and started finding boxes around them, and, copy and paste and all of that stuff that we've seen. And so we started the series called Faking Space and started putting that out there, and it ended up being 11 something. I think it was about 11 episodes the first season. At the end of the first season, Archer was kind of disappointed, I think, that we weren't getting more views. We were probably getting a couple thousand per video, and he had expected a lot more, probably because I'm really bad at making videos. Let's be honest here. The information is good, but, as far as making it real dynamic, that's something that I struggle with. So he decided to
No. They were awesome.
Part ways. Well, thank you. We decided to kind of part ways. I still had all the links and stuff that we're going through, so I just continued the series myself. And I did season 2. And during my production of season 2, I hooked up with another gentleman that's done a lot of research by the name of Scott Henderson, and all of his moon landing research. He had been studying that for 10 years. And he had seen the Faking Space series, and he said, hey, you should do some stuff on the moon landing. And I was like, show me what you got. So we spent hundreds of hours online. He showed me all the photographs and everything that he had found and stuff. And I was like, yeah, we need to make some episodes with some of this information and show people some of this stuff, because it's stuff that I had never seen before. So I figured it was new for other people too. And so we ended up making 8 or 9 of those videos as well. So we kind of got into season 3, and that's what it's about. And people can go to fakingspace.net. It's all on my website. There's 30 something videos, and we're working on a DVD. Hopefully we'll get it on DVD soon. So that's kind of the evolution of Faking Space in a nutshell.
Nice.
Well, I have a question there. So, when you came to all that knowledge, were you already somebody who was skeptical of, maybe government? Were you skeptical of what you were being told, or was it a paradigm, rocking your world, when you started to see, how fraudulent, the videos that you were just easily tearing these apart with Photoshop and video analytic type of measures. Were you already in that mindset, or did this just drastically change everything for you?
No, it was kind of a natural evolution, again, if you're going to use that word. I try not to use it too much, but in this context, the way my philosophy, the way I see everything, the way it evolved over time was that, all of these events and deceptions as they become real to you and you start investigating. Probably the first one that really opened my eyes to deception in the world was the creation versus evolution debate. That was the first one for me. I grew up in a Christian home and grew up believing in creation. Then I went to public school and started to see how that was being torn down in the public school system, and even began to question the creation, account in the book of Genesis. And it wasn't until I got into my 20s probably that I discovered Kent Hovind's videos, and he really brought me back with his series, that in the textbooks, the lies in the textbooks, really kind of brought me back into the fold and emboldened my faith again in the Bible, and showing that that evolution is just a lie. So I give Mr. Hovind a lot of credit for just my own personal awakening to the lies and deception, starting at, with just that conversation. And then from there, it went into, I started questioning the moon landing. I started questioning, 9/11 and all that stuff that builds up. So I had already really been into, aware of GMOs and vaccines and fluoride, and all that stuff kind of comes, I guess, with the territory when you start realizing that most, if not everything that we're being told, there's a lot of deception out there, and you got to be an independent thinker. You got to ask questions. You have to think things through, and don't just take everything at pure face value, whatever you hear on the news. So, when the flat earth conversation came along, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's true as well, considering everything. So again, I was a quick study with that. It was just a matter of time. And I started seeing the evidence, and I went, yeah, makes sense. There's no empirical evidence for a spinning, space pair, flying through space at, ungodly speeds, unfathomable speeds. It's just not reality. So I was pretty quick to get on that bandwagon. So by the grace of God, here I am. That's really, I think he's given me somewhat of a spirit of discernment. I'm not, it's not something I, wave a flag saying, hey, I figured this out. It's just something that he's instilled in me. I just question things. I've always been somebody that kind of questioned things, especially when I got out of the public school system and started thinking for myself. But that one really shook me, growing up in a Christian home and believing the Bible as much as I did. And then getting into that public school system, it started to tear down my faith. And I just think of people that maybe don't have a strong faith going in, that just, your whole worldview is developed in those early years of your life. And it's tragic. It's really a tragedy. So that's where I'm at.
Cool.
I mean, that's I think, I'll speak for Michael here. All of our base on this show of where, pretty much how we started out in some form or fashion, maybe coming to this all a little differently. So, that avenue and that what we're seeing today in the world and what's going on. And, we're going to discuss, is this a pestilence of God? Is this, whatever it is, is this a sham? Is this the hoax? Is this, complete reality, everything we're seeing on TV? We're going to about that and kind of get everybody's opinion. And Paul, you've been doing some really great research. So that's why we decided, hey, this is no better time to have you on. You were meant for this moment. So thank you for being here. And, before we do that, I don't know, Michael, if you have anything to share in that. Before we go into the elephant in the room, which everybody knows what the elephant in the room is right now, I wanted to another aspect before we do that, because I think that'd be important, Brent, just for the audience to hear another testimony of you. So I don't know, Michael, do you have anything before we do that?
No, I came to the flat earth biblical truth somewhat the same way, because first I figure out 9/11 was, well, the Holy Spirit revealed to me that 9/11 was wrong. I did the research on that, and then I end up, all the other dominoes started to fall of different other hoaxes and lies out there. So by the time the flat earth came along, I was convinced in minutes, literally, because once the Bible said it, and I knew the Bible said it. Then I was like, why didn't I see this? I was really angry at myself. But I saw it through Mark Sargent first. Then I read the Bible. I know it was supposed to be the other way around, but that's how I came.
Guilty.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was very similar with me.
Mhm. Well, I'm going to tell a quick story here. One day I was prepping for Take on the World 19, and an email pops in of a ticket sold, and it was a guy named Lindbergh. And I actually didn't even know who that guy was, because he isn't, maybe he say that on the show, right? So who is that guy? I don't know. But it was another guy. And oops, I messed up there, because he's completely anonymous now.
Nobody
I think
knows.
you've got it too many times, but
I shouldn't have said it on stage 3 times. That was probably my, that was my fault.
Jig is up.
Yeah, that was your fault. So I get this email on this guy named Paul L something, and he bought tickets, and he messaged in his insignia it was Paul on the email, the email that came through. No way, he bought a conference. How cool is this? Like, we've been watching his videos, all these things, and we reached out and asked you to speak at the conference, and you said absolutely. You were coming. You brought your mom, and the rest of I'm not going to tell the rest of the story, because the rest of the story is yours. So you came to Take on the World, and you were like, Mr. Hey, I'm Flat Earth guy. I'm coming to show some evidence and proof of everything that we've been lied to on a very technical level, faking with space, everything NASA's doing, all the other countries, all those things. And then you find yourself in a bunch of other sessions. And so I'm going to let you tell that story, because I think this is a great place for you to do it. And I've wanted you to do it. We were going to do it on a secret show. So I'm going to let you do that now, before we go into the elephant in the room type of stuff we're going to do. So
yeah, I tell people, Take on the World, it blindsided me, absolutely blindsided me. I did not know much about the conference other than I knew it was a biblical cosmology conference, and I'm a biblical cosmology proponent, so I would fit in. I figured I had nothing to lose. But I got the invite from you to speak, and like you said, I was already planning on coming as well. Timing wise, it worked out. My mom could go and stuff. I asked her, and she said, yeah, she'd love to go. So we were coming either way, and and then you said, yeah, you want to do some faking space stuff or whatever. And I really had never, other than some of the moon landing stuff, I hadn't really gave a live presentation for faking space. Everything, had been put into videos. And so this was a kind of a new opportunity for me to, put it together and trying to squeeze it into, an hour, which was really tough to do when you've got 20 or 30 hours of content to try and squeeze into 45 or 50 minutes or whatever. I can't remember how long we got. Maybe it was 90 minutes. I don't remember what the time frame was, but so I prepared, and we showed up, and I had one presentation, on one day, and then one the next day. And so I did like all the Earth images from space on one of the presentations. And the second one was all the moon landing stuff. So so I showed up and saw some people that I knew. Robbie Davidson was there. I had met Pastor Nate before, because he was we were at the Question Everything conference together in February of last year. And some other folks that I had met before. Nathan Thompson was there.
Chad Taylor.
Chad. Yeah.
Right?
Chad. Yeah. So there's a couple of folks.
I'm stealing your story. I'm sorry.
No. Thanks for the reminder. I'm sure I left out some other people too. But I it was really cool to see those guys. But yeah, so obviously I got the program, and I see what other sessions, Take on the World's tough, because you got to make some decisions. There's a whole bunch going on at the same time. So, my mom and we didn't decide to do everything together, but she picked out some stuff, I picked out some stuff, and I got smacked with the truth. I came there to flat smack people, and I got smacked by some things in the Bible that I wasn't aware of as well. So it got me focused on some whole Bible truths, as I like to tell people. I came out of there really just going, wow, there's some stuff I've been missing. And I made some changes in my life and made some changes at home. And, as far as observing the Sabbath, I'd say I was eating pretty biblically clean, but I could do a little bit better. And so I did that, observing the holy days, the feasts and things coming up this year. I'm really excited for Passover coming up. So things like that, I really was not aware of because I was under the mainstream Christianity understanding, I guess, or philosophy that wasn't for us. That was for the Jews. So those biblical truths smacked me and my mom pretty hard, and our spirits got pretty convicted. Our conversation home on the airplane was pretty intense about the changes we were going to be making when these truths had been shown to us, and I didn't really feel. I mean, I was kind of the same thing, like you said, Michael. It's like, how did I miss that? I mean, of course, it's right there. When you see that the Sabbath was like the first thing, one of the first things in the Bible, right? In the first chapter, it's the basis, it's the foundation, or part of the foundation. It's like, wow, yeah, okay, this makes sense. Kind of like flat Earth, In 3 days, I'm like, okay, we don't live on a globe. And 3 days after take on the world, I'm like, okay, I need to make some changes here. So that's what happened. And it's been great. My mom and I have a lot to talk about. She came home and smacked my stepdad around with the Torah pretty good. And they're now observing, the Sabbath and made a lot of changes. And, the other mainstream holidays, those conversations came up, which were pretty tough with family, and all that kind of goes together. And so we're working through that. But that's my take on
let me
the
ask
world
you this.
story.
Let me stop you there. Let me ask you right there. So did your because a lot of people may hear, then they may get scared off or they may get frightened, right? You can set the record straight here, right? Did your faith in Jesus go away, or did it get much stronger, right? That is where, a lot of things, right? You're like, oh man, you're talking about all this Jewish stuff, all this crazy nonsense, and you left serving Jesus, or did the opposite happen?
Yeah, it's a good point. In fact, I heard this I can't remember where I heard it now, but people ask me about, what I believe now or what church I go to or whatever. I always, what I tell them now is that I say, well, to a Jew, I'm a Christian, but to a Christian, I'm a Jew. So I'm somewhere in between, and the road is pretty narrow, and that's what I'm trying to walk. And I don't know how true that is or what the impression is. It makes sense to me. And if anything, to answer your question, the Messiah becomes even more important. I mean, he's even more, he's even more magnified. And so I would say it's just the opposite. It's not the putting away of the Messiah or ignoring that or not emphasizing that. In fact, if anything, he's magnified even more. So, I got absolutely blown away when you're studying the feasts and how that's just the redemptive story. I mean, that just absolutely blew me away. And it's the story of Jesus's life, and that's just, I kind of get choked up when I think about it. I mean, again, it's one of those things. How did I miss that? How did I miss that? I'm really, I'm disappointed that so much time has gone by that I haven't been aware of those things. But I mean, all we can do is change the present, and that's what we try to do. So
Monday morning, we're always beat by the time the conference is over, and so we walked in there. We're tearing down. You and your mom, and David Arthur is still there. And David's like chatting with me, telling me all these things that he learned and taken away, and how much more of a reverence he has for the Father. And then you guys were just like, man, we're blown away at that. We didn't look. It's not a like this prerequisite to like come to take on the world. You got to believe everything we have. Look, we know everybody's at different points in their walk, in their faith, and if they truly love the Messiah and they know they've been saved through his, through his blood atonement that he did alone, right? That grace through faith alone atone. If they believe that, they're brothers and sisters in the faith, and I don't need them to be, hey, I need you in this path of the journey. You're right where you're supposed to be. And, I don't need to force you guys. I don't need to do that. We can hold hands in the process. We can agree to disagree on things. We can all love each other and walk with each other in this. Guys like Robbie has a very, very similar story. He came for 2 years, and, I'll let him share his story about, hanging around a bunch of, people doing some crazy stuff. And now he's saying, hey, I see that. I see that. And, so it's just, a blessing for us. We're just the people behind the scenes, and we don't expect speakers to like have their paradigm shifted or changed. We're bringing you guys in to minister to all the guests, and you guys are being ministered to, and that's really amazing for us as people putting this on. So that was my shameless plug. Whatever happens, take on the world 20, take on the world 21. We're praying that this year still happens. You know what? Wherever you're at in your walk, in your faith, whether you may not even know him, we want to open that door up for you guys. We're not forcing you have to come out this way. We're not forcing you have to come in. If you believe that the earth is completely not flat, the conference is for you. Because guess what? I'm going to say it like this. We have speakers who absolutely do not believe the earth is flat. And there I said it. And guess what? They're okay with us believing that. And we're okay with them believing that. So, we'll kind of nudge them a little bit, but,
right.
We're not going to force them. And, it is, look, that Tom and Jared thing, right? Through the black, Jared's a full-blown flat earther. Tom's like, I ain't got, so I'm going to stay globe. I'm going to stay whatever, because I'm not even going to talk about it. So, that's kind of how we are. So that was my little shameless plug. But, so let's go ahead and jump right into, some of the thoughts and what have you guys been thinking. I'm going to shut up and let you guys talk about what you've seen with this pandemic that is happening throughout.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was gonna say, go ahead, Michael. All right. First of all, I can't believe what's going on. I mean, I've still, I've been able to be somebody that works from home for probably 7 years or so now. So from a professional standpoint, not a lot has changed for me. So I kind of forget about it because I've been just going to work and doing my thing like I've always done, and kind of forget about it. And then, it kind of creeps back to my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, the world is like shut down right now. The economy is grinding to a halt. This is just, I can't believe I can't believe this is happening. And so it's really, it's really hard to put into words really how I think everybody is feeling right now, because it's so new and it's so different. And we're learning, I think, a lot about ourselves, through this process. I'm hoping, and this is what I've been trying to do, taking advantage of a lot more time at home to spend more time in the Word, spending more time online, but talking to people that I don't usually, and having more time for, some really deep conversations. And, as we see this news, if you want to call it that, as this information comes across the news wires to us, I'd like to think that more and more people are starting to question things. And I don't know if they are, they aren't, because of the circles that, that we are associating in. People already have a distrust of the government. They already look at these sources of information that are giving us these numbers. Well, these are organizations that are, in my opinion, already proven liars when it comes to other aspects of the world that we live. So that in of itself makes me start by saying, okay, what's really going on here? We need to dig a little bit. We can't just take this at pure face value. And that's what I encourage everybody to do, no matter where you're at. Whatever angle you have for this whole virus thing, is to at least question the information. Don't just take it at pure face value. Use your brain, think critically, pray a lot, and ask for the Spirit to give you that discernment, and be willing to dig in, to this sort of thing. And that's what I've been spending a lot of my time doing, my free time, which I have a little bit more of now. And that is digging into some of the medical science, learning what a virus actually is, what's the, and the history behind this stuff. So I don't know, Michael, I want to obviously give you a chance to jump in here, but at the onset, excuse me, I'm really questioning the mainstream narrative, which I would in any case. But this is so personal and is impacting everybody so deeply that I think we owe it to ourselves to spend some time looking into this, and spending some time, obviously, in prayer and in the Word to help us discern some of this information that we're getting. Before we get into any details, that's kind of my initial perspective on this thing, and my encouragement to other people.
I really share that perspective. I've had to deal with a lot of anger with this, because I don't like seeing just normal, hardworking people. Literally, their lives are literally turned upside down for what amounts to be a well-dramatized rumor. And I know we're going to get more into the facts of it, but my problem with it is that when you said that people need to look into it more and use some critical thinking, the problem is they aren't. And because research is basically a cuss word when it comes to.
Oh, I lost Michael.
Uh-oh.
What's that?
The system is doing something so funny.
There we go. You're back.
You were gone for a second, Michael. Hold on. Let me get this. This is. Hey, guys. Sorry about that. Now that I came back in, everything's going. Hey, about that. Go ahead, Michael. Oops. Michael got kicked out again. You're good.
Okay, great. Unfortunately, most people.
We can, Michael. Okay. Sorry, guys. You know what? This is Flat Out Insights. This is what happens on every show.
Not again.
Here comes Michael.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to bring him in, and I'm not going to touch anything because this is
Right.
acting so funny. There it is. Hey, Michael, if you could hear me, I was saying welcome to Flat Out Insights, because this is
I can hear you.
Every show, spiritual warfare. So, you know what? Obviously, Satan does not want us to say what we're going to say. So
Clearly
that is
not.
what all on this show. So go ahead.
Unfortunately,
Michael,
most people are not going to do the research. They're going to listen to the well-dramatized narrative by the government and the media. And that's the part that's really been freaking me out. It is obvious that at the very least, this is not a pandemic. At the very least, if you know what a pandemic is. And people are not doing the research. Now, I had I am heartened by when I go out and go out to meet clients, go out shopping. We need a new car, so we're looking for a new car, that sort of thing. Yeah, I was shaking hands and giving hugs because I have no reason not to. Now, until I see some dead bodies on the streets and the hospitals filled with the dead and dying, I am not going to take this seriously. It is what it is. So, but I'm happy to say that not everyone is completely food. We meet, my wife and I meet a lot of people, and we meet so many people that think this is absolute foolishness, but they're trapped in the system. Okay, because when the government spills all these lies, everyone's going to act crazy at Walmart, and if you don't get your shopping in, you will be left with nothing. And so you have to go in the lines, blah blah blah. Uh, and so what I'm finding is that there's a lot of people that simply do not believe this. Case in point, we were at Walmart today. It was yeehaw fun, let me tell you. But we were at Walmart today, and we met this couple, and we just started talking, and they were interested in the same things we were interested in and stuff like that. And it turned out to be kind of like a little networking event. And we were passing business cards, shaking hands. They were showing stuff on their phone, so we were like shoulder to shoulder. It was great. It was awesome. And
Like the good old days.
yeah, just being normal, just being normal. And the rest of the customers, they were looking at us like we were doing something horrible. We were committing a great crime, being irresponsible. No, we were simply being normal. And not everyone, thank God, not everyone is completely fooled by this. So yeah, let's get down and talk about the details of this foolishness.
I think
Yeah,
people
well,
they're
here's what
under
I'm
a
going to
spell.
say.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's just really what I am out and about,
Mhm.
getting the groceries. I've been still going out for some runs and stuff and,
Yeah.
getting outside as much as possible and observing how people are acting and, what I see on social media, what have you. It seems like people are just under a spell, and that's that you can call it brainwashed or whatever, but that
Hmm.
is what this narrative is. They are bombarded by this narrative, almost 24/7 right now,
Yep.
and it keeps them living in fear, and that's the way that they're going to be controlled.
That's the
Is
whole point.
it's all about fear,
Yep.
and that's the disappointing thing.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. From the background that we all have of not trusting what we've been told, everything, whether it be our food, our air, our water, right? What's right? There is something in every realm that we go, no, we've been lied to. We've been lied to. And this situation reeks of the same exact stuff.
Yep.
Now, before we go into what we think is going on and maybe give some insight on that, because that's all that we're. Hey, look, our show's called Flat Out Insights. We're just giving our insight, our take. We aren't the gospel truth in our takes and in that stuff. So don't go running and say, well, they said this and that must be true. No, we're going based off of empirical evidence, what we're seeing. That I have some really good firsthand experience. I just got off the phone with somebody who has given me proper intel on this. Since data, so I'll share some of the thoughts that he shared with me. He actually works for the government, so the things that I was actually texting you were coming direct. The one thing that we're hearing, especially in the biblical circles, I think we should get this out of the way first and foremost, is could this be a pestilence of God? And one thing that we should start with. And look, here's one thing that we have to be very clear not to do on either side of the spectrum. I believe that taking the Lord's name in vain is ascribing things to him that he has not done, or that it's that we say he hasn't done that he has done, right? Be very careful in how we, ascribe something to Yahweh himself. And something from him, this is definitely not from him. So I'm not going to go on the record and say this is definitely not from him or not against him, but or not something that he created or something that he didn't do. The one thing I can tell you is that he is continually working. He is moving. He is making headways and strides. Let's just chat a little bit, because that's the other thing in this. Is this a government conspiracy, or is there an agenda behind this? We can talk about every single avenue, 5G to you name it. There's so many different angles here. Or is this everything that we're seeing scripturally placed out to cleanse and purify the land? So yeah, let's go ahead. Let's jump in. And yeah, Paul, why don't you take that first? You're gonna be out there first, so you go for it.
All right. Yeah, I that's one of the first things that I started to wonder. Anytime, obviously, anybody spending time in the Word and prophecy and end times and Book of Revelation and rumors of wars and these events in diverse places. All these verses come to mind. And is this people? I see it in chat too. A lot of people are saying, "Well, this is the birth pains." Or the birth pangs. This is, something is leading up to something. And like you said, Chris, I am not going to go on the record and say this is definitely not. I'm not going to just draw a line in the sand. But my opinion is, and just through prayer and reading the Word and just meditating on meditating on scriptures. I think it's a good wake-up call for people that, maybe need to make some changes in their life. I would definitely say it's an opportunity, as a believer to be able to talk to people about, what's going on and give that perspective, that biblical perspective on things. But at the end of the day, it just doesn't seem like that this would be something that God is doing any sort of cleanse. Again, in my opinion, in looking at scriptures and the stories that we have on when he did, some sort of act in biblical history, it was seemed to be very decisive, very quick, very. There was no doubt in people's minds. The nation of Israel knew that when his anger was kindled,
Yeah.
right? So, there's just so many, and we were kind of talking about this earlier. There's just so many breadcrumbs, if you want to call it, so many different data points, which I assume we're going to get into, that point to this being man-made. Now, I'm not saying that God doesn't have his hand in it, because he definitely works through people, both for good and evil. We have lots of scriptures that show that God will send an evil spirit. He will harden somebody's heart. So, those sort of things definitely have happened in biblical history. So we would be remiss if we said that that's not happening now. But at the end of the day, I think that this is a man-made event, and definitely from a propaganda standpoint, like you said, something blown way out of proportion. That's definitely man doing that, because the numbers just don't add up. There's so many different things that we could point to that don't reconcile with, if this was truly something to be worried about, what we would be experiencing right now. But I would say that is my opinion, that this is not directly a judgment of God or a cleansing of God. I think those things are still to come, and I think they're going to be much more severe than this. That's my opinion.
Well, my thing is this: as far as when I first heard that this was possibly a plague from on high, my problem with that is, okay, I tried to look at everything through scripture, and that's my filter. So, all right, the plagues in scripture. Let's take the plagues in Egypt. All right. When Yah actually caused those plagues to happen. They didn't take several months to develop. Like first you have a few locusts, and then one day you have a few more locusts. And no, it didn't work that way. All right. When he instituted a plague, it was sudden, it was devastating, and you just died. It's real simple. You have a lot of dead people, really sudden, really fast, shock and awe. Y'all actually created that shock and awe. Okay. And
Amen.
he did not need help from humans in order to make it happen. And also, when he instituted a plague, you're not going to wear a filter over your face. You're not going to wear a mask or a hood in order to protect you. If you were slated to die, you simply died. Okay, there were a lot of dead people, or a lot of people with boils, or it was truly horrendous. Okay, I'm not seeing that here. Okay, so I'm pretty secure saying no, this is not a plague. Okay, now when I see the wholesale death and chaos, yep, I'm definitely going to say that's a plague. Not until. Okay, this looks man-made to me. It looks contrived. It's long in the planning. You do one little plan and one little lie. None of the numbers add up. All the predictions of all the dead people and everything, not one of their predictions have come true. Okay, and now they're fudging the numbers because they need the numbers, and so they're fudging them. I guess we'll get to that eventually. But as far as the plague is concerned, nah, I'm not seeing it. Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you,
What he said.
man, yeah. Well, no, look, there. You know, I got to think about how I phrase this so I don't. You know, when we, I'm gonna offend people.
Oh well.
Yeah, right. And look at this. You know, look, there have been evil men that we know who have been connected to some really evil stuff, who have supposedly had COVID and the coronavirus, asymptomatic, 2-week quarantine, they're fine. If it's a pestilence of God and he is taking them out, he's not giving them, oh yeah, you just needed to be isolated for 2 weeks, right? You know, look, I mean, come on, we got to think a little bit. I mean, I was watching a video of Cincinnati today, because we're here in Ohio, and it showed a montage of everybody quarantined in their home, all the families doing their fun activities, all their dances, they're making up songs, they're just having a blast. You know, some people are enjoying the nice weather, and there was this nice, beautiful montage where people are just chilling in their homes. And you're going, if this is a pestilence of God, they'll be hiding under their bed, right? I mean,
yeah.
my God is mighty, man. He's mighty.
Right.
He's when he does something, you know that it's from him. They're not doing press conferences. They are running because they know it is him. Now, look, maybe it's going to get to that point, and I can't say that it won't, but I'm not seeing it now. I'm not seeing it now. And if we keep just fear, mongering everybody that, that millions and millions of people are going to die when the majority of people who are getting this, the vast majority of people who are getting this, have shortness of breath, and they have a cough that irritates them while they sleep at night. We who supposedly have it, who have been diagnosed over the phone, they weren't tested, and their symptoms are, this cough keeps me up at night. It's terrible. And then I have to use a little ventilator to breathe, every once in a while, right?
I want to shout out,
do a nebulizer or something.
I want to shout out Diane Buckaloo in chat, because I'm with her 100% here. If it was a pestilence of Yah, half of Congress would be dead.
She's right.
Hey, that's and Look, and if China, I mean, who knows, like what's happening over in China, you know, saying everything's a lie, right? And or we're saying China's lying about everything, and so if you watch Worldometers, on that website, right, and everybody's watching it all the time, and we're seeing how many people have it, how many people are dying, that kind of stuff. I actually tried to put up Diane's, and somehow I got Jesse. So, shout out to Jesse for accidentally getting into the line. So, love you, Jesse. And I know she smiled on that one too. So, yeah, right. I forgot where I was going.
Well, but it's
but
a good point.
so yeah, pestilence of God. There will be pestilence of him, and he will. Is it that? Are these countries already turning the curve? Have they already flattened the curve? I mean, come on, guys. I mean, how blasphemous get, right? Flatten the curve.
I found it interesting.
We've been doing that for quite some time.
Yeah, right.
We didn't get that hashtag.
We do that for the last 5 years, man.
Well, yeah. First of all, flattening the curve, we've been doing that for a couple of years now. So
right.
I'm glad everybody else is catching on. But back to China real quick. I found it very interesting that all the numbers that came out of China were taken as gospel truth until they started to lag behind. And now they, have seemed to have stopped it. There are no new cases, obviously the quarantine worked. Well, it's really like gone back to normal there, so to speak. And so now the only thing that the mainstream narrative now can say is, well, they must be lying about the numbers. So in February, the numbers were real, but in March, now they must have been lying about the numbers because it just doesn't add up. It's just, and this is this lack of reconciliation, I think, that we're going to be talking about when you start putting your thinking cap on going, man, they just keep changing the story. The information, it's just absolute chaos out there. Everybody's just, whatever they think sounds good. They're just saying it and then people are running with it. But anyway, I can go on and on and on, but yeah, China was a very interesting piece of that for sure.
Well, let's go ahead and jump in. So, if we're not on that page, look, and we're not saying that it's not. We're just saying we're not seeing it right now. And we've been, I don't know about you guys. We've been praying about it, and we're doing the smart things. We're making sure we're prepped, we're prepared. We're not, I'm not going around and touching things and touching my face. I'm not going to be stupid, but I didn't do that stuff before, so I'm not doing it now.
Right.
I'm not, I'm not going to walk around and get people sick. And go cough and do that stuff before. I'm a germaphobe. I'm sick. I've been practicing good hygiene, thrift stores, and pick thrift stores all the time because that's like a hobby of mine. And for like Christian CDs, if you've watched the other shows, you know that. But you would be shocked to know how many men walk in and out of that bathroom who just urinate. And they go out of there and don't wash their hands. And then you go see them in the store. I'm going to tell you right now, Michael's a man, Paul's a man. You guys know. I mean, look, maybe in normal bathrooms, maybe it's higher than 50%. But in the people that shop at thrift stores, I'm going to say it's like less than 30% of men wash their hands. And problems, really. Now Corona's spreading like crazy. I mean, we look, I'm not even gonna go there, but it's so, we're not stupid and just go out and, do stupid stuff. People who are acting like that we're not taking this serious enough, preparing our homes and our families. Look, we're going to go through hard times. This isn't an easy time. This isn't like, a super cakewalk, and it's going to get worse no matter what it is, whether we're isolated longer, whether, we, less of our freedoms are taken away, or more of our freedoms are taken away. I mean, for a long period of time, it's not going to be good. So no matter what's happening, right. So nobody's saying be irresponsible. And, because I've been getting, from people on our side is that we're going to have blood on our hands because we're getting people sick and we're killing the elderly. Look, I would say be smart. These people don't want you by them right now, so it's not like you're going to go over to an old lady and know her, right? Your neighbor
Michael
and
might.
she needs something. You better go.
I have a story
help
about
them,
that.
right? Michael might. So there you have it. So I think we cover Pestilence pretty well. So
I was at Fresh Time.
and no knock on anybody who's believer.
I was okay. I'll try not to. I was at a Fresh Time grocery store, and there was an old friend of mine there, and she said, "Hey, Michael." I said, "Hey, Deb, what's up?" And she says, "Well, I guess we're supposed to be," because she was standing in line, and everybody's looking so serious, and they look so depressed, and everybody's kind of afraid. And what I do is try to interject some humor and try to be as normal as possible in public. Okay. And so I walk up to her and she gives me her elbow. And she said, "Oh, I guess we're supposed to knock elbows." I said, "Says who?" And then she laughs and we give each other a big hug right there in the middle of the store. Man, people looked at us like we were insane. And then we started talking about how dumb this was and all that stuff. And sure enough, the customers around us started nodding their heads and going, "Yeah, yeah." It was like they were being slowly either waking up, or at the very least, we were casting doubt in their mind. You know what? I need to think about this more. Okay. Instead of just believing every single thing I'm told. And so that's what Maria and I try to do whenever we're out. We laugh, we joke, and we try to make people comfortable and cast a little doubt into the public narrative. And it seems to work, so that's what we're trying to do.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Great story.
Well, let's jump in. So, we can why don't we spend a little bit of time talking about Q. I was on a show and I spoke for like maybe all of 0 seconds on that show. But it is absolutely an amazing show. So go watch that. It's called QAnon, Friend or Foe, and it is on Take on the World TV right now. We just aired it tonight, but it was a holy hand grenade yesterday with Ian and Aaron Sampson. Yeah, Rick and Aaron Sampson. I didn't mean to sound like they were married or something. But Ian, Rick, and Aaron Sampson. So they're not even watching, so it's all good. But that's a fantastic. You know what? One of the biggest stories from the truther realm. So maybe that would be a great place for you to roll with, Paul.
When it comes to Q, is that where we're going?
Yeah. So let's hear your. Yeah. Let's go Q first. Yeah.
I am the last person to ask because I am not up to speed on any of that. I'm not a QAnon. In fact, it was probably only about a year ago that I first heard about it. It was actually from my mom, and she has since kind of kicked that whole idea to the curb as well. Probably after Take on the World, maybe had something to do with that. But I really have not kept up with that other than what I hear people say. And I understand, I think, the premise, but other than having an overall opinion, that's not something that I could support with any evidence, or I couldn't pick apart, because I'm just not, I hate to defer the question to Michael, but I don't know very much about it other than the whole premise is that it's a draining of the swamp for the deep state. And this is, this whole lockdown, whatever you want to call it, is meant to protect us and allow the powers that be to do what they need to do to cleanse our world. That's my understanding, and I don't think that's what's going on, but I don't have enough evidence to shoot it down, and I don't have enough evidence to support it. So over to you, Michael.
Well, I think the Q thing makes me kind of nervous. It's kind of creepy, if you ask me. I watched a video on the show last night, Chris, and it was exceedingly well done. In fact, it was a little bit too well done, in my opinion. Now, production is what I do. Okay. That's how I make a living. And I've seen some excellent productions from some excellent truthers. But that one was way on the pro edge. And it was more than merely talented.
And what you're talking about, yeah, and what Michael's talking about is on the last night's show, they showed the video. It was called Q,
Yeah.
the plan to save the world. And that's what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Video that was put out. Yeah.
That's the one I'm talking about. And at the very beginning, it made you want to listen to it because he had a lot of truth in there. But then he started supporting some ideas that didn't make sense, and he started supporting slowly. The video was being slanted toward the media drama and the whole thing that the media is trying to shove down our throat, and he was making it like it's a good thing. That's the part that I did not like. I said, sorry, dude, I don't care how you spin this. This is not good. Okay. So anyone who says that, as far as I'm concerned, is confused. At the very least, at the very most, they're a base liar. So the whole Q thing sounds great, great presentation, and that's what's really carrying him. Because he gives just enough hope so that you think more about the hope instead of exactly what he's saying, and it gets blurred. And it gets blurred in a good way. It gets all rosy and clean looking. But my thing is this: when Neil deGrasse Tyson, our favorite guy, when he was on the Late Show, did you guys see that video when he was on the Late Show?
No.
And I actually copied it and I cut just that clip out of it. So if you want me to play it, I can. But he actually said that this pandemic, in quotes, is a test. And I'm paraphrasing. It is a test to make sure that we learn how to obey. He literally said, obey scientists. He said, don't freak out.
Mhm.
This is going to be over pretty soon, but this will teach you people to obey scientists. We're doing this for your own good. Now, he actually,
Yeah.
in a nutshell, told the whole plan right there. And Q contradicted that. So, I'm going to put a little more weight on what Tyson said. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a Tyson fan, but every now and then, Tyson, in the midst of all his silly astrophysicist lies, he pops in a little grain of truth. Like for instance, I remember once he said, "The Bible and science are unreconcilable." He's exactly right. They aren't. They are completely unreconcilable. They are complete opposites. He was exactly right there. And he was doing the same thing on the Late Show. So Q is attractive, comfortable to listen to, but he's spouting out a whole lot of lies.
Well, that's what I've seen in
or whatever it is.
the people that are, big into following Q and all of that. They find a lot of hope and inspiration, and
Right.
and that's where I think some of the deception might lie.
Yep.
Just in the fact that it's inspiring for a lot of people. They want something to believe in.
Sure.
They want to think that that we're all going through something, but it's for the greater good. I mean, that at the end of the day, he's going to save the world, and that, and when I start thinking about these things, I'm just, again, bring it back to scripture. People are looking at that almost like that's the Messiah.
Yep. They're looking at the wrong thing.
Looking
Yep.
at their gaze is in their focus, and their attention is on the wrong thing. So that's why I've always had kind of my, the BS meter, the bologna sandwich meter kind of go off about that. It's just like, it's distracting people away from truth.
Yep.
Talking about biblical truth. And I think that's where there's some danger.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When we start to look at the scripture down to its real raw form in scripture, what is the Bible truly about, right? It's a love story, right? It's a battle between two sides, good versus evil, and they are fighting for it. That's it. You've got God and you've got Satan, right? You've got this whole dynamic, and we're the end prize, right? And and we get to make these choices throughout, is on the very realm. When we think of it only in that perspective of this good versus that evil, which it is, we kind of miss the understanding of the occult world. The occult world operates similar premise, and what I believe Q to be, so there's a lot of really good information out there. Ian and Aaron, they did a great job. Probably Alexandra, she has some really good information about Q as well. Look, Q is going to give you truth. And people in that movement, they're going to have truth. They may get things leaked early. They may have this. I don't think it's like what everybody's saying is. There's definitely something to it. And, to understand what is happening, talking to guys like Nathan Reynolds, if you know his story, involved in occultism to the highest level of, the Reynolds bloodline family, right? To understand, what's taking place, understanding, Masonry, duality, dualism, the white and black checkerboard, right? That biblically supports this idea as well, is that within Satan's realm, he operates in two sides: the right hand, the left hand, the light and the dark. Not the good versus the dark. It's the light. Your Illuminati, the illuminated ones, the enlightened ones. You hear this in almost every realm. So you have a group that does really dark, evil things, right? Look, I'm wearing my Through the Black shirt, right? We can talk about satanic ritual abuse, talk about Pizzagate. We can talk about what the dark, deep state, what these people in Hollywood, all these things. We can talk about all that stuff. But what's even more dangerous is even in the destruction and the killing of the children, the adrenochrome, you name it. There's enough of the same entity that brings in peace, that brings in a false security of peace and safety. And I believe that is really happening in this regards of Q, right? Because the whole thing is about ushering in safety. And biblically, Psalm 91, and it talks about an aspect of pestilence. But it also states here, starting, and you guys can read all of Psalms 91. I won't read it all here, but it tells you that at the 1,000 shall fall at the side, and 10,000 will fall on the right hand. Right. So we have that idea here, right? The right, which we would see as the light, or even in regards to politics, right? We got the deep liberal, and then we got the deep conservative, right? You've got the right and the left. This Christianity tends to lean right to the right on board with conservatism. We're going to fight abortion. We're going to fight this, rightfully so, right? But we're going to fall right into their traps. Then we're going to ultimately believe, look, we were all duped to believing that George Bush was a born-again Christian because he wanted to abolish abortion, right? Or that he stood up there and said Jesus was his savior. We buy a hook, line, and sing, when they start to tell us these things. And it's exactly what Q is doing, right? It's ushering in this new aspect, which is just the other path. Now it's time to take the other path. The only way for the whatever it is, a beast system, a figure, I have my opinion on what that may be, but when the Antichrist appears and ushers in this realm, it's because of peace and safety. It's coming through that right hand. It's coming through the thing that's going to times the amount of destruction. Then here, this left side is full of nothing but dark and light appears as dark. I mean, look, Satan appears as an angel of light, you know?
That's right.
And I truly believe, we've been in flat earth for a long time. I've heard people say, is going to be, the thing that comes, and flat earth is the, the great deception, right? All of these realms and how the aliens may come. Look, I believe that peace and safety is the ultimate deception. It is what we all desire. It's what we want. We have children. All we want is our children to be safe. We will do anything to make them safe. I've talked to people who say, I would take the mark if it meant not feeding my children. If that's the counterpart, they have to be taken care of, right? This is what people desire. They want peace and safety. We will gladly do what they tell us when things are good. We're going to fight them tooth and nail when we're going, no, this is all bad. We know you guys are evil. You guys are meeting at Bohemian Grove, worshiping owls, right? And doing mock sacrifices, and you guys are friends with Marina Abramovich doing spirit cooking, and you guys are connected to Pizzagate. And no, we're not going to buy you. But the minute that something comes in and unifies and drains that swamp, that's when the true danger starts to come, and we will truly buy it hook, line, and sinker when that peace and safety come in. And the Federal Reserves are finally abolished completely, and that's happening now. There's that happening now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know, go out there and find that. So, yeah, that's my take on Q. And, that doesn't mean that we need to be ignorant of it. See, there's so many Christians and so many people say, oh, Q's a hoax. You know what? Rob Ski, when he trained in the military, he knew his adversary. When he was in the military, they had to know their adversary. They had to know his moves. If we're ignorant to what Q's doing, and then it bursts on the scene, they drain the swamp, and all these good things start to will be, and people will be. I mean, look, people buy hook, line, and sinker as a born again Christian, and that he fails every moral compass that says, hey, we will know you by our fruits. We're going to throw that out. God put him there, and I'm not saying God didn't, because God appoints who he has in place for whatever throughout time and history, and that's scriptural. And he's even worked through men who weren't even believers scripturally, right? I'm going to shut up and let you guys start to run with a little bit more of that. So,
yeah, you're right. The people talk a lot about the mark of the beast, but I think the part that they sometimes forget is that it comes with worshiping the image of the beast as well, and that is where the deception, I think, comes in. And like you said, the beast, the beast system, those sort of topics, I think when you talk about those, you need to understand that the beast will be looked at as the savior, as somebody that is going to bring in and usher in peace. So you said it well, Chris. I got really nothing to add other than it's beyond a mark. A mark is something that you do, that you accept, whatever, and we can decode that, till we're blue in the face. But the point is that it's worshiping the image of the beast is what leads to that, and seeing the beast as the savior. That's the deception.
I agree. And it sounds like that all of this is going to happen gradually. When I was taught in school, in a church, I should say, that the end times is going to happen suddenly. Okay, all of a sudden the system will be changed, and Christians will be killed or whatever, or that was in my days of pre-trib. So everybody's going to be taken up, and then the whole world's going to be changed, and it's just going to be sudden, and all of a sudden the big beast is going to come. It's starting to look like it's going to be gradual to me, because quite frankly, why would you make that switch overnight? Because at the end of the day, the scum elite, because I can't call them elite, it's just it's an insult. The scum elite, they have to deal with the fact that they're dealing with billions of people. Okay. And these people aren't gods. They're just highly psychopathic, but they aren't gods. They have a lot of governmental power, and yes, they have guns, but they still aren't deity. So they have to deal with us slowly, because if too many people wake up, they're in deep trouble, because we really outnumber these guys. All right. And at the end of the day, they fear us. And the most that they fear is that one day we're going to wake up and find out the potential that we have in the Lord. And if we build a relationship with him, we become a massive, undefeatable, formidable enemy to them. They don't
Come
want
on.
that to happen.
Come on.
And so they have to keep us asleep. All right. And that's
right.
what this is all about. This whole thing is a distraction to keep us away from the actual truth. Somebody today was upset because the airplane crashed. And I said, "Why are you so upset?" It was full of toilet paper. Seriously, dude, you're upset over a plane that crashed full of toilet paper. And see, this is a joke. They're laughing at us. All right. And this is all to keep us distracted so that we will not embrace the power that we can have through Christ.
Amen.
Awesome. I think we addressed that. We can come back. We can maybe take some questions, on any questions at the end of the show. So let's go ahead and move on. The biggest, one of the other things is, 5G. And so, is 5G a part of this? Is 5G absolutely nothing to do with this? I'll start again. Paul, if you want to jump in, give some thoughts on that.
Yeah. I've gone back and forth on it just because the information seems to be really hard to come by. But, I think it definitely plays a part into this. And it probably is, has to do really with just the level of toxins that we're dealing with. So if we're getting into the actual quote unquote virus now, my opinion right now is that, I do believe that there's people that are sick. Okay. I don't believe that, all of these numbers are just purely fabricated. I do believe there's people getting sick. Now, I think the numbers are wrong. But there are people that getting sick. Now, the question is this something that they would have gotten sick regardless? But now we're counting them and they're on websites and they're being reported in the news every day under a certain illness. And that's why, that's to create fear, or is there something really happening? And I kind of go back and forth on that specific thing. But if you're in the camp of people are getting sick, then I think that 5G is a part of that reason. But I think it's only, I think it's only a percentage. I don't think it's the sole cause of it. I do believe that people are walking around with more toxins in their body than we have ever had, fluoride, vaccines, chemtrails, GMOs, 5G now, you put all this stuff together and the levels of toxicity are really high. And, maybe the turning on of the Wi-Fi at home is another one, our cell phone signals and all of that. Maybe when, these very high electromagnetic, radar waves, what have you, creates a certain threshold in the body and the symptoms start showing up. I'm of the belief that a virus, if you want to call it that, is something that's created in the body when it needs to detoxify. Okay. Yep. And so that is something that I've come to understand. I started by just researching germ theory versus terrain theory, which was a big conversation, coincidentally, about the same time that the flat Earth, globe Earth conversation was happening in the late 1800s and early 1900s. But big medical debate about why were people getting sick? Was it a contagion where they were passing it, person to person or animal to person, or was it a body's reaction to some external something that was creating toxicity in the body, very toxic to the body? And so I think once I found out that the entire vaccine industry, the whole idea of vaccines is propped up by germ theory, I started to question germ theory because that's
oh yeah, man, consider the source.
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's probably most people that are going to question the legitimacy of a vaccine, and even if you don't question them, you do know that there's stuff in them that you don't want in your body, and so I think people do know that, but they think it's probably a higher risk if they don't than if they do. That's where I think a lot of people are. But when it comes down to the 5G, I'm trying to come back to your question. I think it does play a part in this. I don't think it's the sole reason. I think potentially it created another level of toxicity, another layer of toxins in the body, and people are having a reaction to that. You can call it radiation sickness, you can call it respiratory pneumonia, all of these different names they want to put on it. But that is what I think is happening. And just for people that don't know, that are listening, the difference between germ theory and terrain theory is germ theory is that viruses are something that are able to be passed from person to person, a contagion or something infectious. And terrain theory says no, that the viruses are actually created by the body by a damaged cell secreting. I think that the clinical term is exosome, but that is what the body is, or a cell is secreting that is toxic, and the symptoms occur, telling basically what that is. What's going on is your body is going into detoxification, and typically the symptoms then show themselves up. And so I think we're obviously only testing people that are showing these symptoms, that are going through a detoxification. And so obviously that's why the numbers are going to be a little bit higher, but that is going probably on step 10, and we're still in step 1 of 5G. So I'll let Michael take over now and talk about 5G.
Yeah.
Okay, boy, you just said a lot of things there. As far as the 5G is concerned, I agree. The 5G is just one cog in a massive strategy. These scum elite, they never just have one plan with one layer to it. So it's a multi-tier plan. 5G is a part of it. And yes, according to what I've learned, the whole 60 hertz thing and everything, it can actually cause more toxicity in the body. So I would say avoid it at all costs, but I would say anything technologically new that they come out with, avoid it at all costs. Now, unfortunately, we can't avoid everything. We have to have these. Okay. I'm a 3D animator. I have to use a computer. I do not draw by hand. I can, but I can't make any money that way. So I need a computer. I need the internet. And that's where prayer comes in. Because and usually when I say this to Christians, the reaction is really rude. Okay. Prayer can literally make you immune to what science and what the demons are doing out there. And then other Christians will, wait a minute, you have to be responsible, blah, blah, blah. They're completely forgetting who Yahweh is. Okay. So let's not get fearful and upset about this stuff. Yeah, the enemy's going to do their stuff, yada, yada, blah, blah. But then there's our Father. We actually have the advantage, not them. We have the true power. So yeah, 5G is a nasty little invention they've come up with. And by the way, 5G is very inefficient because unlike the other frequencies, transmitters, 5G can be broken up with steam, trees. I mean, the 5G emissions can be broken up very easily. That's why they have to have so many transmitters everywhere, because it's extremely inefficient. That's kind of cool as far as I'm concerned. Wow, lousy technology. That's great. So as far as, I just want to make a comment on viruses. Yes, Paul is right. Viruses are basically the human version of Tide. Okay, it's there to clean us up, and it cannot be transmitted. It just can't. And I know that's what we've been taught, but we were also taught we lived on a spinning ball in the black void of space. So, it cannot be transmitted from other animals. That is not possible. I mean, it's literally impossible. So when they say, patient zero came from eating a bat, no, that's actually not possible, because when you eat something which is the process is fascinating. When you actually eat something, it goes down in your stomach and it transforms your food into the same biological structure that you're made of. So even if it did have a virus in it, it's going to change it. The only way an alien virus can hurt you is through injection. Ergo, vaccines. Okay. So you have to actually be vaccinated with the virus in order for it to hurt you. So this gives further evidence that this is definitely a hoax.
Yeah, and just to
Yeah.
add on top of that, I heard a really good analogy. I like your tide analogy. I'm going to steal that. The other one I heard is, when it comes to the presence of a virus. So obviously, we're testing people that have symptoms. So naturally, their bodies are going through something, right? And they have a fever, they have a cough, they have a sore throat, whatever they have all of these things. So the body is going through something, and it's that detoxification. It's how I understand it. But what an analogy I heard that just makes perfect sense to me, and I'll throw it out there because if anybody, it makes sense to other people and you could use it because I think it really helps people to understand, is that blaming a virus as the cause of the illness is like blaming the fire trucks for causing a fire because of the mere fact that they're present at the scene.
I am definitely taking that. Yeah.
That one just makes sense to me. And I think that's why, obviously, when we test people that are sick, they're going to, guess what? They're going to show up as being sick with the virus. Now, this goes to right what you said. The question is how did they contract that? Did they contract that from somebody else, or is this an immune response?
Oh, and by the way, if I were to go get tested, and everyone don't get tested, do not get tested for this. All right, it's not a good idea. If I were to go get tested, I would be positive. You know why? I'm an asthmatic. I have to use this every day. Okay, so I am a good case for this farce. And so they would automatically say, "Oh, you have the virus. We have to admit you." Blah 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 blah. There's no way I'm going to get tested. It's not going to happen. So don't do it, folks.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons they chose, you're going to say the scum elite, that this is the one that was chosen to be the virus of choice, the pandemic, is it's going to present itself in most of the people. So you're going to be, it's the common cold, or it's related to. So therefore, when a majority of people that get tested are going to show that is present, it's just going to prop up the whole narrative.
And also, yes, I agree with Paul and Chris. People are dying, but they're dying because they have the flu or they have some complications from some sickness that they've had. And so the CDC is taking those deaths and making it seem like they're dying from this pandemic. But if you'll notice, just do a little research, more people died of the flu last year than they have of this supposed pandemic. So why didn't they call it a pandemic back then? All right. So, and if you notice the demographic that are dying, they're the elderly, the infirmed, people with compromised immune systems, and the very, very young, like premature babies and stuff like that. All right. Well, remember the flu, that's the primary target of the flu. It affects that demographic. Wow, how convenient is that? So, when you really think about all this and just do a little bit of research, you can see holes in it all the way. But yes, people are dying. They're just not dying from what they call the coronavirus.
You bring up another good point about the demographics and when it and another rabbit trail somebody can go down if they want is looking at what they classify as the cause of death now and understanding what's going on death certificates to kind of, I think, pad the numbers. But there was something, and I saw somebody in chat mentioned it earlier, and I just came across it, I think, 2 days ago, and that is the Italy's Minister of Health even admitted that if they removed every death, or if they counted everybody that supposedly died, what we're told because of the virus, but just died with this virus without any underlying health issues, the number would be about 700 for Italy, because the other 80 or 90% or what have you actually died for other reasons because of other complications. And so that's why those numbers are so high. And that was their own admission. You know, again, when you got to peel back the layers of the onion a little bit, if you just look at the amount of death in Italy and you believe what you see on TV, then you're going, wow, it's absolute chaos and mayhem there. But again, a little bit of research, which most people aren't going to do, unfortunately. But if you are willing to be in somewhat of an independent thinker and peel back the layers of the onion a little bit, you'll start finding some of these statements. You know, even Dr. Fauci, or however you pronounce his name, he's all over the mainstream news. He's in every one of the sewer networks. He was co-authored a paper in the New England Journal of Medicine on the 26th of March that said that based on the numbers and what he's saying, that this coronavirus is going to end up being more akin to the seasonal flu. And it's going to have a death rate of 0.1% once all the numbers are kind of fleshed out.
True. Wow. Okay.
He admitted it. I mean, he admitted it right there in the New England Journal of Medicine.
Wow. Wow.
Even though I don't trust that guy with the 10-foot pole, he's a lie. In the case of vaccinations in court and in regard of damage, what they can cause. But, you guys said some really interesting things about viruses, and, I wanted to pull some things back about viruses. And if I get too biblical health on you guys, so if you guys have not seen, we did just start biblical health back up. Yeah, we did. We just started it back up. Coffee enemas and parasites. So if you guys didn't know, we ran biblical health for 2 years on ICTV.
I need to add pork. I need to add pork to my list of toxins. I keep forgetting to do that. Swine, as the Bible calls it.
Right.
GMOs, Wi-Fi, 5G, vaccines, fluoride, and don't forget, don't eat swine, because that's another major toxin in the body.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, one thing that is so important, as you talked about, the germ theory and basically what it's created are herd immunity vaccinations, right? Is what, the inventor of pasteurization said on his deathbed, was that the germ was nothing, but the terrain was everything. It is how our microbiome is. It's how our gut health is. Look, everybody's like stocking up toilet paper. Everybody's stocking up, all sorts of canned food. Everybody's doing this. Look, nobody's focused on immune system, right? You're going to enclose yourselves up for a couple weeks, months, however long this lasts. And then look, our bodies, we breathe in. Look, we've done air purification. So we know, like, in every block of air, there is tens of thousands of viruses, bacteria, mildews, fungus, whatever you may name. These things are in our breathing zone all the time. They have no effect when the microbiome is strong, but we are weak, those things overtake us. So, we need to be focused on what he has planned. Look, God has given us measures to overcome bacterial infections, viral infections. He's given us these things. Look, our savior to the coronavirus is going to be, when is this vaccine coming out? That's one going to tell me it's not pestilence of God when the numbers go down dramatically because the vaccine comes out. I'm serious. I may offend some people there. If the vaccine comes out and those numbers drop, look, he's given us everything we need. He's given us, all of those things. Our body is made up of more bacteria than it is human. There are more bacteria. Why aren't we ever focused on, building our gut microbes, our probiotics, focusing on enzymes? These are the things that make our body work. Look, a virus enters into the body or excretes in the body. The one thing that most people don't even know about viruses is that they're made up of an outer shell. and how our bodies can naturally fight off, whether we expel them, they're injected into us, however they get in. The body it needs to create specific enzymes to break down that outer shell, and they are specific proteolytic enzymes. Ironically, being in enzyme nutrition for over 15, almost 20 years now, the main enzyme is a proteolytic, a protein-based enzyme that is required. Ironically, the most enzymes that we as Americans are the most deficient in. They are the ones why we have high blood pressure, heart disease. They are the very reason. Look, there's something called when the blood clumps together. It's called rouleau. And that's where we get, heart attacks, where we get all these specific things. Look, if you're having a heart attack, if you ever see where they jam those things into your, into your leg, when you're in the ambulance to revive you, right? And they jam that in there. Well, there's a large what is in those is proteolytic enzymes, because those proteolytic enzymes go in there and separate the blood cells instantaneously. Now, what are they? Afterwards, drugs, when they could put you on a regimen of enzymes like they do in countries like Japan. Japan enzymes are drugs. They try to treat people naturally, or at least they have. They're to more Western medicine. Continue, is where the number one, place that everybody mimics, right? It's a joke. It's absolutely a joke. So we, the first thing when a virus comes in attacking the body, if we don't have those enzymes to break down that outer shell and then allow things like our probiotics naturally or intaking our prebiotics, growing those probiotics, even down to our white blood cells, which are reduced. Look, I mean, if you're out there, I'm looking at these people's carts and they're all so afraid of everything. And yet they're eating nothing but ice cream and cake and junk. I'm watching their carts. I'm going to preach to you guys right now. Look, I'm sorry to say this to some of you guys. Refined sugar breaks down your immune system. It takes for 5 hours. When you eat 30 grams of sugar, it breaks your immune system down so much that you lose 50% of your white blood cell count as it goes to break down and take care of all that refined sugar that's coming. And I'm not talking about fruit. I'm talking about your cakes, your cookies, your, everything we eat at a birthday party. That's why when you go to birthday parties, everybody ends up coming home sick, right? We're here eating 30 grams of sugar, then being around a bunch of people, sharing germs, and then our bodies are now weak, and they're probably weakened because we haven't taken care of them all week or a month then we're going and getting an antibiotic to go and do this again. Look, they're immune compromised. Look, I'm going to say it like this. Coronavirus, they're shutting down the country. They shut it down for 2 cases here in Ohio, right? State of emergency for 2 cases. They don't care. They never will. Every 37 seconds in this country, somebody dies of heart disease. Fast food chains, we should be shutting down that stuff with weak people. We don't. Places like Switzerland, who eat the majority of their food in their grocery stores organically because there's problems, care more about their people. Now, I don't agree with everything that they do, but I'm just saying, look, we have more fast food chains in America than we have places for, look, we try to eat healthy out. I got nowhere to eat. People yell at me and they say, look, because I eat plant-based, and they say I'm a New World Order agenda eating. I'm going, well, you know what? Diet, plant-based diet. I got no food, man. I got nowhere I can go to pick up something quick, man. You guys got all this. Say all that crap is the New World Order agenda. All of the genetically modified food, the fast food that's killing all of us. It's
Preach it.
Absolutely
Preach
crazy.
it.
It's time.
Preach it.
You know what? It's It's time, for us to regain our health, take it back, follow his ways fully, not just check off our checklist of can we eat, should we not eat pork? No, okay, cool. Shellfish, you spiritually and look just like how he tells us, to lust after a woman is the same as committed an adultery. What do you think those dietary instructions is bad for your body? You are not eat it based on that spiritual concept of the law, especially when Paul tells us that the law is spiritual. So it's time for us to take back our own health, put it back into what the Father has for us, and not just check off our checklist like we're a bunch of Sadducees and Pharisees and just following the letter of the law. Because if we did, we can go with confidence that, we've done the very best. We have honored our temples and our bodies, and I fail at this. Look, stress brings down our immune system.
Yeah.
I don't need a perfect diet. We're trying. We try to do as best. Fail. Like I said, if you've watched Biblical Health, I've said it many times. We've stocked up on lots of food, more chips, and then we turn around, we open up a bag of chips, and between the three of us here in this house, you turn around in like 2 hours. How is that even possible? And then you're like, that ain't healthy for us, even if they're organic, right? So it's like, no, look, everybody is out there panicking. You're grabbing toilet paper, and you're so afraid of this of catching something that can't be caught. Look, things like the HIV virus, they last like minutes, right? They last minutes to seconds on counters. They're not living organisms. They need a host, right? Yep. And we start to forget every, person that, teaches on viruses will tell us. And yet somehow, they found the coronavirus on that, cruise ship after 17 days still on surfaces. I mean, come on, guys, are we being played? I don't know.
Virus, man. That's the super virus. you know what? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I was just going to ask Chris, as, with your experience and your, you said, being kind of an enzyme specialist, what have you, teacher for so long, when it comes to this germ theory versus terrain theory, where do you stand on that? I guess what my question is, do you think that people are really spreading this, or is this an immune response to toxicity? I guess, where do you stand on that?
That's a great question. If, understanding how viruses work, how we expel those, or how we even produce those in expelling toxins, are we having is potentially 5G turning on this reaction? That is a great 5G. It does make a whole lot of sense because, the symptoms that it produces are shortness of breath, a cough. Interesting, right? Or we're being totally lied to. And this is a bioweapon that they have released, right? That is something that can be, that is catchable, that is being passed by touch, by, maybe, right? Because look, things like HIV, which, I don't know where you guys stand on, I believe completely man-made, and yep. That is obtained, as we know, through saliva, through sexual contact, right? All of these realms, where it has to enter into the system directly, not just by a mist in the air, right? You can't get AIDS by touching someone or playing basketball with Magic Johnson. Taking their hand, unless if his hands, your hands cut, and you're doing blood brother stuff and rubbing your hands together like you got a secret Masonic pact, you're not going to catch HIV. So that would be, is that if it is something that can be caught, it is definitely something much more than a virus that's being perpetrated. But it's only got a kill rate of roughly what the flu has, or even if at worst a little bit higher. It's so far, right? And some countries are already coming out of it. Some things are reopening. Nothing's ever going back to normal. So we can already rule that out. Nobody's sitting back. None of us are saying this is all going back to normal tomorrow. Everything's going to be fine. We're not being irresponsible. We're not saying, nothing's happening, because I think that's what people think that's what we're saying. And that's not what we're saying. So that would be my, early take, because, really who knows at that point.
Well, there might have a lot to do with the, what people are instructed to do when it comes to the, like the coroner, right? You're starting to see accounts online of people, saying, yeah, my father passed away, but, he had a heart attack, but, they tested him and he had coronavirus. So the cause of death is coronavirus, and it goes on the scoreboard,
right?
So there seems to be some nefarious, decisions being made to pad the numbers, and that is for fear-based, obviously. And Chris, you put it best. When you do the research and understanding, these symptoms that we get, from whether it's a virus or a bacteria or whatever, but the fear alone, that psychological impact that it has on our immune system is quite actually well documented. From what I understand. So the more people that are watching TV and living in fear, they're creating they're making themselves even more susceptible to getting sick at some level, just because of the fear that they're allowing to enter in, by paying attention to the news. So I tell people there is a cure for the coronavirus. In my opinion, there is a cure, and that is turn off the TV.
You know what? My wife and I are concerned. A friend of ours just passed, and we have to shoot the funeral, which in and of itself is a whole different story, because the funeral home this woman had a huge family, and they all can't come to the funeral. Only 10 people are allowed. As if you're going to catch anything out in the open, okay, out in a cemetery. It's just moronic at best. But we're afraid that they're actually going to take this woman's passing and add it to the corona numbers. But here's the problem. She was 106 years old. She passed because she was 106 years old, okay? She did not die because of the coronavirus. But there's a chance that they may take that and use that to pad their numbers. But no one's looking at this. Because it's far more comfortable to believe the government media narrative than to actually do some critical thinking. And basically, most people are lazy brain and they're sheeple. I just sent a picture to both of you of the Costco
line.
Yeah. We were going
Awesome.
to Costco to pick up a few things, not running there acting crazy. Oh, I need toilet paper. We were just going to pick up a few things, and there was a line. They actually had a corral made up of pallets, and I sent you the picture. A long corral made up of pallets, and people were standing in line with their masks and their gloves outside in the cold, waiting to get in, and they would only let in a certain amount of people at a time. My wife and I saw that and immediately turned around and said, "Oh, we don't need groceries that bad." Because I am not going to degrade myself and allow them to treat me like I'm some type of animal. I mean, I already tolerate that at the airport.
Sadly enough, Michael. Well, sadly enough, Michael, this is what all stores will be doing starting this week.
I know.
Here in Ohio.
That's why we were shopping today.
So if you got to get groceries, man, don't go hungry. Don't go
No,
hungry
no,
because of
no,
your
no.
pride, man.
No. But I'm not going to be treated like an animal, man. It's just not going to happen. And we turned around, but we actually took pictures of it. I said, okay, we got to shoot this. So I'm trying to shoot as much as I can. We were in the Aldi's, and now they have fancy stickers on the floor so you can keep 6 feet from each other, as if that's going to stop you from as if that's going to stop a pandemic from killing you. Okay, that's hilarious. Unless they can prove there's a force field between each mark. Okay, a biofield from Star Trek to keep the virus from killing you. But there were people in the line, and we all started making fun of it, and we started laughing about it. It was great. I just loved it. This young lady started making fun of it, and another woman behind her. Next thing you know, we had all moved in and clumped together, and we were making fun of these little marks on the floor, and everyone was looking at us like we were insane. But I love that. Not, and I've said this before, but it really gladdens my heart. Not everyone is fooled by this. Not everyone, and I'm really glad to say that.
Right on. Well said.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I wanted to share, and I think referenced this a few times, what's going around, Facebook land is the thing that the doctors, which is, which we're now seeing as skewing. This one came from my pediatrician, who is a now holistic doctor, but she was a medical doctor. And we were at Dr. Alfonso Munzo's place yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. And he got the same paper. So he's seen it up close. And he got a new fax too. So I'm just going to read her post. And this was Dr. Leventon. She was a speaker at 18. And she spoke on vaccinations there, ironically, right? So she wrote, I just received this notice from the State of Medical Board of Ohio to all doctors. It's the guidance for reporting COVID-19 on Ohio kit of death. Coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 should be reported on the death certificate for all descendants where the disease caused or is assumed to have caused or contributed to death, meaning had cancer, had, anything else, bronchitis, but we assume that it might been corona. And then she writes, how are we supposed to gather accurate statistics when we are making assumption as to the cause of death?
So without even a
not only
positive
happening
test, right?
Right.
Without a positive test,
Without a positive test.
you have to make an
And
assumption.
they're saying it must. It must. It's not even a question. It's telling you must report this as a COVID-19 death. People are saying that these numbers are going to rise out of complete control. This is showing us that they need those numbers to go out of control. This isn't this isn't a Facebook hoax. This isn't a letter going around, because that letter is, people have shown that letter all over. I have seen it with my own eyes, faxed to the doctors in their hands. Okay, Dr. Munzo showed us. Okay.
Wow.
And then if we get
fabricating
into the test,
numbers.
and then even if you get into the test, you get some of the doctors that are chiming in to say that the test has as high as what a false positive rate could be. 4 out of 5 could be false positive or something like that.
Yeah, 80%.
What have you guys heard about the test itself as far as its accuracy goes?
That's exactly what I've heard. There's more false positives than negatives.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Chinese doctors telling us it produces 80% false positives.
Oh man!
You've got the whole aspect of the the trivalent flu shot pushed 2019, 2020 to have a coronavirus in it. So look, their tests do not test for COVID-19. It tests for coronavirus, which is part of the trivalent flu vaccination. So chances are, I'm going to say it like this. If you've gotten the flu, if you've taken your shot and you took a COVID-19 test, you would 100% test positive for that, because you already now have those antibodies for coronavirus in your system.
Yeah.
Whether you're showing symptoms or not, or asymptomatic, I would love to ask every single one of those people, especially, look, old people, they line up to go get the flu shot.
Sure.
Then they get the flu and they're like, oh man, I'm glad I got the flu shot. Lasted 10 days.
I've been trying to find that flu. I've been trying to find that flu shot insert online that says that. I saw a screenshot passed around online, but I didn't know what drug it was for or what company. And I tried to look those up. I couldn't find it. I did eventually find the charts doing a reverse Google image search, but it was from a 2012 study. So it was attributed, at least the screenshot was attributed to something else. But I would love to see the trivalent one, because I would love to send that to some folks right now. Right now.
Same here.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, and
here's
look,
what
we're
I
not
heard,
saying that
just to finish that thought. The test, and this is from Dr. I think his name is Dr. Kaufman. I've seen a couple of videos. He's been online, but he was kind of breaking down the science behind building the test. And he said, first of all, this COVID has not been purified, I think is the clinical term, and they haven't ever isolated it, which would be necessary for them to create a gold standard, which would then allow them to develop a test. So this is obviously a rush job, and that's why it's probably very, very high false positive rate. But he said that what he understands is the test is for, and this is getting very technical, and I'm definitely no doctor, but the way he described it was the test is not testing for that particular strain, but it is testing for the sequence that they have attempted to map from this virus, and they have only mapped 26 base pairs. And so anybody that knows anything about DNA, RNA, I guess that's going to make a lot of sense, but there's billions of pairs. So they've created this test out of 26 base pairs from this gene sequence. And this Dr. Kaufman said that particular sequence could potentially create a positive test for thousands of potential problems in the body, or sequences, genetic material found in the body, let alone just this one particular illness that they seem to be zeroing in on. So when you break down the science to this, and and you're getting some opinions from doctors, you start understanding that this is just one big fabrication, and these numbers are anything but true. They can't be, because it's an absolute chaos out there, what's going on, and nobody knows what anybody's doing, and they're getting instructions to do this and that, and no, it's not making sense to anybody. Other than this has got to be man-made, and it's got to be for some end game.
Yeah. I actually told some friends of mine who actually believe it, and they're so devout, and they said, well, people are dying. I said, how do you know? Well, I heard it on the news. I said, okay, dude, have you vetted that? And they would go through that they didn't, or I just believe it. I say, oh, okay, I tell you what, let's make a bet. Let's make a bet that within 2 weeks, I don't get the virus. This is a pandemic, all right? So the chances of that happening is pretty high. I tell you what, I bet you won't get it in 2 weeks. I bet you your mama won't get it in 2 weeks, okay? I bet you $30. Come on. But they won't do it. I can't even make any money off this. So, I mean, they're so devout about it, but they won't put their money down on it. You know?
It's easy to trust the government and to do what they say.
Yeah.
Most people do it, so if you do it, you're not going to be looked at strangely, or you're not going to have to feel ashamed. So it's just
Right.
easy. It's just
Right.
easy.
And,
It's
and
easy.
that's another thing
Mhm.
too. I know about peer pressure. I didn't actually go through it in school because I didn't care what people think. And you have to care what people think in order for that pressure to actually be a pressure. And that's the problem. The government knows that people don't like being considered an outsider.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're a Christian, you're already an outsider. You are a peculiar people. You are a wackadoo. You are a weirdo. Get over it. Okay. So you might as well go all the way, you know, and just believe in the Lord completely and stop believing in these lies and believe in your Savior.
Amen.
So, man, guys, we're like 2 hours in, so
Oh,
we're
man.
gonna have to start bringing this closer. The one aspect I know Paul has probably spent some time talking on this. The city of Tennessee, there are more people over the coronavirus who have committed suicide based upon the loss of job than the virus has actually taken out in the city of Knoxville. And this is the real thing that's happening right now is, we're looking at a massive amount of small businesses, lots of jobs being lost right now. You're looking at lots of just a way of life, and then you're looking. Big thing is that people that are sexually abused, verbally, mentally, physically abused in the homes, now they have that father who's doing this stuff there 24 hours a day, where school was their only outlet for these kids. We're dealing with so much of this stuff going on right now based upon quarantined and this happening, which is going to cause more deaths and more harm than this virus, whatever this is, will do. And that is a real thing. And I think we need to be really focusing our prayers on those families, those homes that are being afflicted during this time. This is going to get really real soon. If this, Ohio said, "Hey, we're not pulling the ranks on this quarantine stuff until at least the end of May." It's going to be a long battle, and there is hope. That's the thing. So we talked a lot about all these things, and so we can spend some time maybe chatting about the mental health aspect, what's really taking place out there, how we can help one another, and then ultimately I think we should pull this right back into the only hope that we have. And so yeah, let's go down this road.
Well, yeah, that is one thing that I think we can all say is really happening, and that is the reaction to this pandemic. Whether you believe it's a plandemic or a pandemic, the point is that the reaction is real, just like you said. So, economically, people are getting, businesses, small businesses, jobs. People are financially going to become devastated. A small business owner in this country typically can't go a week or two without their doors being open before something bad happens. And now we're telling them to close for a month or two or more. The chances of them getting back to where they were are slim to none, even with this stimulus package. It's just not going to happen. They're going to have to go and get a job with another multinational corporation, and that entrepreneurial spirit is going to be damaged.
Right.
So the economic impact is obviously grinding this economy to a halt. So many around the world. We haven't begun to feel or see how bad it's going to get. You know, we're only a couple weeks into this thing, you know, another couple of months, and it's just going to be, it's going to be tough. You know, I mean, again, you know, do you want to look at the numbers, but, you know, they say unemployment could reach, you know, Great Depression levels. You know, I don't doubt it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's devastating economically. But then you get into the maybe what is even more damaging, and that is the psychological and the amount of depression. And like you said, suicide. People are trapped. You know, they're maybe not getting as much, not going outside. They're not getting seeing the sun. They're not, and they're not close to people. You know, the social aspect here is, or the lack of social aspect is really something psychologically damaging as well. You know, unable to shake hands and hug and kiss and
Yeah.
that sort of thing is really damaging as well. And I don't think we have any idea what the impact is going to be. That's something that maybe is unquantifiable. You know, we can obviously, when it comes to the financial and the economics, that's something that's going to be measurable. But you know, the fallout on the psychological side, the social side, is something that is going to be really hard for us to. It's going to be there and it's going to be bad, but understanding how bad, we may not have any idea. We may not have any idea, and that's probably what scares me the most, or worries me the most, is the psychological aspect here, and hopefully, like you said, if we can bring this around for good, you know, spending more time in the Word, and maybe my hope is that there's more people now that are opening their Bibles and they're dusting it off. They're pulling it off the shelf. They maybe haven't looked at it for a long time, but there's something pulling at their heartstrings right now, and they're realizing, you know, potentially that they need to put their hope in something else, and that's my hope and that's my prayer.
I think to really pull all this together, I think what's going on here is called a Hegelian dialectic. And they're, to put it simply, they're creating a problem and then they're going to create a solution. So they're going to come in as the savior. And the problem is multi-tiered, where first it's the fake virus, and then because of the fake virus, the businesses are closing. We're going to self-quarantine. It may end up an actual quarantine from the government. I don't know if they'll go that far because the public seems to be working out very well for them. But in any event, it's definitely going to hurt people. It's already hurting people. That's what causes my anger. But that's the problem. Now, here's the opportunity, because I look at this and I go through two emotions. Number one, I'm angry as what? Okay, angry enough, boy, I wish I could just find one of these guys and have a good time in the alley somewhere. Okay, that would be awesome. But the main thing is, the other emotion that I feel is opportunity. I actually feel excited about this to a certain extent. Now, no, I wish this wasn't happening, but this is a great opportunity for believers to make our presence known, to show them who we are in the Lord and who our Savior is and who their Savior can be. Okay, so while we're quarantined and we have to stay in our homes for the simple reason there's really nowhere to go. Okay, um, um, we need to focus on how we're going to deal with this once it's over. It will be over. This is truly a test. This is not the end. This is a power play. And they're testing the whole system to come. So this will be over. What are we going to do when it's done? And we need to run out of here with a serious power play of our own, and that's going to require some study, some prayer, to be very dedicated to the Word. And what does the Holy Spirit want? What urging does He have for us, so that we can be obedient when this is over? And that's what we're focusing on in my house, because this can be an opportunity for us.
wanted to share a couple things. I don't think any of us are saying this is the end of days.
No.
This is not, the tribulation happening right before our eyes. I don't think we're saying that.
No.
I do believe this is another step closer to get to those times, right? It's all part of the plan. It's all part of this this process. But when we talk about great tribulation, we have Revelation 14:12 that teaches us and tells us what is the perseverance of the saints. How do we persevere tribulation? And it simply comes, and they're all wrapped up into one thing. They're all wrapped together as like a nice, neat little bow. And it says, here is the patience of the saints. Those that keep the commandments of Yahweh himself through the testimony of his Revelations 14:12. So when we talk about the deepest, darkest times that this world will ever face, he says, obey me only through your belief in the shed blood of Yeshua HaMashiach, right? Jesus Christ. That is it.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we got the church fighting against the commandments of God. People fighting against the Messiah, right? It said, no, it's when these two things harmonize together. Flesh, the commandments of God are not just the feast days, dietary instructions, Sabbath, and tzitzits, okay? And newsflash to those that think they're not part of that, right? So we got to harmonize some things together. Let's talk about the whole word, all the commandments of God. God for our life. In the greatest of these tribulations, you don't think they have an effect on where we're at right now, being quarantined in our home? Everybody's creating little fun videos, mattresses and sliding down, walking around town looking for teddy bears. I mean, really think we're in the great tribulation right now? I'm not seeing great pestilence. I'm seeing,
Right.
we can beat this thing if we just stay in our homes. Come on, let's think.
Mm-hmm.
But right there's the answer. If we are walking in obedience to the Father through the commandments that he's given us, through our testimony of salvation. Look, it's not works plus salvation. It is faith through grace alone that we can't achieve on our own through any works that we do. Thing that most, right? But here it is. I mean, he harmonizes these things together. And I'm telling you right now, if I spent a long time talking about when we did our FEIC presentation, and the wrap up was on those feast days, those days that were created in creation on day 4, the Moedim that moved with our enclosed, flat, geocentric Earth, right? We talk about those things, that the sun, moon, and the stars rotate for those days, those times, and the seasons, right? And there they are, right there, created on day 4. The redemption of our souls, the most vital parts of our faith. Without what he did for us on that cross, we have nothing. They tell that beautiful picture and that beautiful story. If we're not watching for those things, they don't protect us. And look, I'm going to say it like this. If you're somebody who's just, I only do Easter, and I remember death, burial, and resurrection, and I'm not saying Easter for the majority of people who are doing it like on service, you're astute in a lot of paganism. Believe in the death, burial, and resurrection. You're gonna give your creator in a service and listen to a 30-minute message because everybody wants to go out and running home to eat your ham, lunch and open up it. Keeping the death, burial, and resurrection, it isn't fast food. It's for seasons. It takes time. And he's teaching us lessons for a season. In the season that we're embarking on, he wants us to remember this, right? Because it is the second part of how we persevere is through our testimony of Jesus Christ. That is the fall feast. Or the spring feast, I'm sorry. And then we have the fall feast. And these are the things that we can be so excited about. Look, if Q comes in, and I'm going to answer that question. I'm sorry. If Q comes in and they're the left, the right hand of the opposite of what the left is doing, and they bring in usher in peace. Look, if that occurs and that happens, we should all be happy. We're going home soon, right? We're watching for the days, the times, and the seasons.
Right.
He's coming back for us. It's not a scary time. If you think that we're going to lose our home and, we may have to go through some persecution, is your faith that weak that you don't know that you're going to be with him? You're going to be with him forever? Is your faith that weak that you're going to be slightly afraid? Look, we can all be a little scared about some things, but when that time comes, Tony, he's in the chat. I don't know if he's in there. I think he still is. Tony, a tattoo, which is against the commandments of God. I'm just messing with him. But he has a tattoo around his neck, and it's a cut line, and it says "cut here," right? And this is when he got this, it was. He would be one of those, that are part of the first resurrection. Scratch that, pre-tribbers. Sorry. In Revelation, that get their heads cut off. They are part of that first resurrection in the tribulation. You got to scratch your head on that one. That was a very interesting verse. But are we willing to do that? Are we willing to set aside that fear to know we're going to be with him forever? Strong enough. Look, I had a friend over tonight who is not a believer at all. He was picking up alkaline water. Alkalinity is another realm of healthy, so I'm going to throw a tip in there. You could do alkaline water. You could do fresh fruit, vegetables, all sorts of things that alkalize the body. Apple cider vinegar, important for fighting detoxification process of naturally incoming bacteria that we breathe in. So another biblical health tip there. But he sat there and he's telling me, about he was watching this thing about how they're going to do this ID 2020 is going to get put into your hand. And he's saying there's other things going to get put into your, and they're going to track all your movement. And, where that's from? He's like, no, I don't know where it's from. I would never take that. I'm like, dude, that's in the Bible. And they call it the mark of the beast, and he's like trying to talk to me about this stuff. I know about this, and he's like, "Oh, I've never read the Bible." And I said, "Hey, I'll send you some things. You should check it out." And he goes, "Well, I would never take that. I would never take that." And you know what? If we're not, he's already somebody. He is part of the cult, and this event waking him up. And I think that is the point of this whole thing. Whatever's happening, it's time to wake us up. If you've been sleeping, it's time to wake up and this we're not long for this world. That doesn't mean that it's happening in our lifetime. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it, but are we raising up, the next generation that they will be going through this? I don't know. I don't know, Paul. Maybe your kids, you came to these truths in your life to teach them to your children, so that they can persevere to the end. That they can be that remnant that he is protecting. That he is, it not even be us, right? Everybody thinks it's going to happen in my lifetime. It's going to happen in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. It may not. We're not promised tomorrow. So, I was so we live. And not of whatever is occurring and happening. And, look, I'm not getting paid for my job. You know, everything's tight. Nothing's good. Nothing's like, oh man, that's awesome and that's great. Things throughout that he's giving us, absolutely. But he's molding us. This is a time that he is molding his people to just trust him. So you know what? We can jump down rabbit hole after rabbit hole. Don't get involved in conspiracy theories like they're going out of business. And don't start attributing the things to him that may not be happening. You don't know. So guess what you do? You sit back and have faith in what he's going to do. And I'm going to say it like this. He's never told, churches closing down, pastors stop doing what they're doing. Look, if somebody's sick and this is a real thing going around, what you're supposed to do is go to your elders. Scriptures teach us, go to your elders if you're sick and have them place hands on you and pray.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. You think Yahweh's going to bring a pestilence? That he's going to stop his people from working?
Mm-hmm.
And that they're going to just buy into a hook, line, and sinker? And if they go out and start touching people, they got blood on their hands?
Mm-hmm.
No. It ain't happening that way. So there it is. I went on another tangent. Sorry.
Well, closing down churches, so there's no laying on of hands, and maybe that's part of the point.
And you know what? I want to talk about one particular church. Are you guys familiar with Alistair Begg at Parkside?
Yeah.
No.
It's a huge church. Alistair Begg is a evangelical pastor, excellent pastor, by the way. They closed down all the churches. So all the churches closed down, and I'm sorry if I hurt anybody's feelings, but that's just spineless. Okay, come on. I mean, do you worship a God of power or not? But so he has a church where he can have 3,000 people in his sanctuary at any given time. So he couldn't stay open because he's a 501c3. He's got to follow the rules. So instead of just shutting down and having an internet experience, what he did was he said, the church is closed for services, but all the ministers will be here. If anyone wants to come. That was gutsy. Okay. I really like how he did that. Also, did you guys hear about Hobby Lobby?
Mm-mm.
Hobby Lobby, I have to find an article on it, but Hobby Lobby refused to close. And they stayed open. Now, are you familiar with Hobby Lobby at all? Okay.
Yeah.
Hobby Lobby refused to close, and the only reason they're closed now is the governor forced them to do so. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, Hobby Lobby has my business forever. All right, because they were real Christians, and that line is known to be totally Christian. It closed on Sundays. I mean, and just walking through there, you feel like you're walking through a church, a real church. And I've always loved Hobby.
Closed on Saturdays.
Are they closed on Saturdays? No.
They should be closed.
Yes,
No.
yes, but they're evangelicals. So,
yeah. Hey, you can't be mad at them. They're still stuck in some bad theology.
No, I'm not mad at them at all. They're awesome because they're doing what Christians are supposed to do. And when I heard that today, I was so impressed by them.
Yeah.
So there are some people out there that are fighting this. They really are. In the Lord, by the way. But I don't want to start a whole new subject.
So guys, we're an hour and a half in. There were a few questions. If you guys want to ask your questions, we've got some things we can take. One is asked early on. I didn't cover that at all. People ask what was Q. I think Kenny was the one really asking. Just to sum Q really quickly, and just Q appeared 2017 as a completely anonymous source through its own site, doing what are called drops to like a social media post through its own website, revealing certain things. and it began a huge following, and what is known as the Anons, which would be known as the anonymous, of the masses who take the information from these posts and they start to decipher the information. Trump is down to Q with lots of connections, behind the scenes, what they're doing through code, lots of like just odd things. I mean, if you start to look at some of Trump's Twitter posts and to the drops and how the very close work together in a lot of sync. So the question is, who is Q? What is Q? Is it AI? Is it John F. Kennedy Jr. who died, right? So there's a lot of conspiracy, a lot of mindset behind it. And so Q is truly the plan of whether it's a elite group of the high-ranking military people ready to take down everything wrong with this world and restore and do a complete reset. That in a sense, that is exactly what Q is. No one really knows. So that's what's going on. So you have a few handful of people that are like the main Q, people. Like one of them is like Liz, and you can follow her stuff right through like Instagram or whatever, and you can find out what she's deciphering, and is very much pro-Trump. It's all about this whole realm and this perfect plan to redeem mankind. So they talk a lot about God. They post a lot of Bible verses. No mention of Jesus, Yeshua, so which is a very odd. So it's not what it's about. It is. You can definitely see what people studying it from understanding all occult is that it looks like it's the light path of the evil side, right? So you have a dark, really dark path of evil, and then you have a light path of evil. So it is looking and appearing, because Q isn't big in the United States. It's big in every country. You have military people who are wearing Q patches. When Donald Trump sees you wearing a Q thing, he's pointing at you and saying, oh, awesome. He knows it's all. Oh, we didn't even get into all that stuff, but there's, oh yeah, it's people will say that it's a hoax. I'll say there's something. Talking to high military, say no, there's something to it. There's, they have deep connections to something, some type of intel, some type of thing. That's why a lot of people will believe that it's artificial intelligence. And look, there's some really good documentaries to understand, and you're going to get some truth mixed in with some lies. You're going to get, just like when you look at how you can get New Age doctrine in health, but you can get truth, right? So you have to be able to decipher what is good. And the website channel is FALL Cabal, and they have selling documentaries on their channel. I think everybody should watch them, because then when you watch them, you will see what the plan of Q is at the end. And then you go, this is nothing but the beast. This is nothing but ushering in the beast. So, check those out. Know the good, really good. Know what's going on. They're about.
Oh, go ahead, Chris. I was just going to say again, from Paul? that YouTube channel you mentioned. It's like a 3-hour documentary. The Fall of Cabal. It's like a 10-part thing, but if people want to know what's all about Q, that was the one. I did watch that one. That's basically everything I know about Q was from that documentary. But that's
now they have a new one on Corona. Yeah, the lady who did it has a new one on Corona, which reveals a lot of new information on a lot of different things. So again, it leads back to that light at the end, and that it's not Christ. And so that's when we know discernment needs to be so high. We don't start to fall into patriotism where our Tea Party badges or whatever, political thing, or our Fox News T-shirts. I don't need to be doing that when the Messiah is not brought into this, and they're ushering in a new light and a new realm. Man, we've got to, as believers, we should have some really high discernment on those areas. And so, yeah, I mean, watch those things and just have discernment when you watch them. There's some good.
What was the name of the YouTube channel? It's using people.
It was
including.
It was FALLCABAL.
Yeah. Shout out to
or
Chad
just
Taylor.
Fall Cabal, I believe. Yeah.
Shout out to Chad Taylor.
Yeah, I know. Chad, next time. Yeah, we got to. Me and Chad. It's like the same thing. You know what? It's like Chad and Paul. We think that they're the same person.
Yeah, we're twins.
Paul, the same guy. Yeah. Because although
Chad,
I know
brother.
it's not true, because I had you both at the conference. Yeah, we love you, Chad, man, and doing the same thing, trying to figure out how to do a show. Probably going on for like 2 years. Me and Michael had him on like really early on UCT, and then we never were able to get him back to the show. So, yeah, Chad's take on the world about it. So, and unfortunately, hopefully Paul's plans change. His August plans change, because of Corona. And if Take on the World 20 happens, he'll be joining us back again.
I'm not ruling it out yet.
Yeah.
Lots
so guys, if you want to ask a question, let's get our guest one question, if you guys can do that.
Okay.
That would be awesome. If you guys can come up with a question for Paul, any type of question, like what he eats for breakfast, anything. We want to do that, because it looks like he still has sunlight. Is that true?
No.
Are you inside or outside, Paul? I can't tell.
Oh, there's just a screen on the window behind me, so I think that's just a reflection.
Okay, because it looks like you're outside, like it's like. And then that's like the screen door, and it's open. You're sitting on the porch drinking coffee.
Don't believe.
Okay, so you're in. Okay, all right. Yeah. If we get some questions popping in here. Come on, guys. We got 41 people watching. You guys have been killing it. For all you East Coast people, I know you don't have to work tomorrow, so thank you for staying with us.
There's a question came in from Effed Up World. So, hey, Joe, good to see you. He wants to know where I got my hat, and I will say go to headhoncho.rocks. I'll put that in the chat here. Headhoncho.rocks. It's from our brother Isaac, who I met at Take on the World. Also saw him down in Dallas at the Flat Earth Conference. But yeah, it's one of my favorite hats. Firmament. Get one while they're hot. I think he's doing free shipping still too, but don't quote me on that.
Oh, great question. Okay, here it is. What sold your mom on walking in the commandments? And how did she convince your dad?
The Bible. And I don't know. I wasn't there for that conversation. I hate to be vague.
Was there
what was the
was there a particular presentation?
I don't know. We haven't gotten into the particulars. I know we just both came out of there, when we were on the plane ride home, we were just talking about, boy, we really missed this. We saw a lot of people talking about this, pointing out scriptures, and, there's just a ton of them that we could go through that just talk about, how these things are forever. These weren't just for the nation of Israel. These were for the Gentiles. This is for God's people. How many verses talking about obeying and keeping the commandments, till the end. So all of these verses, and talks that we were exposed to, we just left convicted and said, this is something we need to take a deeper look at, and got into prayer and that sort of thing. So, and I wasn't there for the conversation she had with my stepdad, but I know it was a week or two after the conference that we were talking, and she said that he was totally on board, and they've been walking it out. They go every, even now they're going out on the Sabbath, and they are taking and ministering to the homeless population that we have here, and they're just they go out there and they spend so much time. The fruit is they're bearing fruit. Let's just say that, and so it's evident that they're walking it out. So I can't tell you exactly what convinced them, other than I think that they humbled their hearts, got on their knees, and asked for the Spirit to show them truth. And that's something that we should all do.
Yeah, and if someone's not ready, there's nothing we can say to convince them. If it's not a direct download from above, it's anything we're going to say to them is going to fall on deaf ears. So if we have loved ones that, or you're in marriages or whatever, all you can do is love them and reveal Christ to them, and follow. They will see it. If you force it on them, if you make it uncomfortable, if you tell them what they're doing is wrong, if it's not coming from them, they're never going to see it. So that's what I would say to that. Good question, which Michael and Paul, you can ask here or answer. It says, why is it hard for the earth to be round and the sun are accepted?
Why is it hard for the earth to be round? And I think I saw that. Say that again. Why is it hard for the earth to be round and what?
But so easy for you to accept that the sun and the moon as being round. Why don't you accept the earth being round? Yeah, so
round.
Do you understand the question?
Do they mean round or sphere?
They mean sphere, but they don't understand geometry.
Yeah, sphere.
Oh, okay. Okay. Why do I accept the sun and moon as being spheres, but the earth as being round?
Well, but not being round, or not being a sphere as well.
Or not being a sphere. All right.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do not accept I know, I'm trying not to. I do not accept the sun and moon as a sphere. There's no evidence to show that it is a sphere. As far as I can see, as far as what evidence I can tabulate, they are a disc visually. Matter of fact, the moon kind of looks like a frisbee because it seems to have curved corners to it. I mean, curved edges. So it seems that the earth is flat, the sun is flat, the moon is flat. There are no spheres up there. So
I would just ask the person asking the question, why do they think that the sun and the moon are spheres? Where did they get that information?
Yeah.
Well, that's because that's what they were told to think. So
yeah,
I admit they're round. They do appear round, but we don't have any evidence that they're spherical.
Oh, they're definitely round. I mean, yeah, they aren't squares. They're definitely round, but I don't see them being spherical, no.
Yeah.
And especially the moon, because especially when you see a full moon, all right, that's supposed to be reflecting the sun, correct? I mean, based on what we're taught in school. Yet when you reflect light on a sphere, you're going to see a specular highlight. And based on the intensity of that light or the distance of that light, you're going to see a bright specular highlight or a diffuse specular highlight, but you're going to see a concentration of light, and then the light will fade off. That's called light fall off as it wraps around the sphere. When you look at a full moon, you do not see that. It is lit from edge to edge. Okay. So it can't reflect. It cannot be reflective, nor can it be a sphere because it does not light like a sphere. And a sphere lights the same way every time, regardless of what it is or how big it is.
Well said.
This is other than Corona.
It's just like the good old days.
Man, I know, right? It's like, man, it's like that hat must have had so much dust on it when you're like, man, I got to put this thing on, So you had your COVID-19 hat on, yeah. All of you guys, look, a great place to start with Flat Earth. If you guys aren't there, please give it a really fair shot. And the reason that most people become authors is the very work that Paul does. When we start to see things that make us question, right? Everything that we're talked about tonight with coronavirus, there's so many things that make us question, right? This doesn't add up. When you have every creation ministries who wants to fight every scientific fact and they want to tell us, oh no one ever addresses why we actually don't trust NASA to begin with, because the stuff that they're pumping out is full of nothing but lies. That's where it starts. So when you start asking questions, about well, the sun and the moon and the planets are around, but what be around? When you start asking questions like that and think that it's ridiculous, you haven't looked at that evidence of things like video glitching, where it's on clearing, as Michael has shown us, the Hubble telescope, very badly done, right? Everything that Paul has shown us to be completely fake, completely just shown to be fake. If space would not have to fake it, right? They wouldn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
So go those videos from Paul while they're still available on the website. Then when the DVD comes out, make sure you have copies. YouTube is going to censor all that stuff. And the only way that we'll have this information to share and wake up people is through things that we actually do own, whether it be on our own computers, physical copies of those things. So I would encourage you guys to start there. The work that Michael Solomon and even, these guys would work amazing, just breaking down and tearing apart photos and videos. And if you haven't started there, and hey, and I say this on everything, every creation ministries that come that do documentaries against us and call us, that we're heretics they never address the very reason why we diss what we've been told. Start there. If you can prove to me through, photo analytics and, get your Photoshop experts and prove what Paul is doing to be false, what Michael is doing to be false, and what everybody has done on, all the things that Rob Skiba has shown, the Photoshop, whatever it may be. Go get people to go show us, no, all that stuff is real, and here's why. You've never done it, and you never will, because you can't. And if you can't do that, then you have zero credibility, because they've lost all theirs with us. We can't gain credibility when we know they're liars. And the same thing is applying to this Corona stuff. When we already know they lied to us over and over and over and over and over again, when are they going to ever tell us the truth? They're not, and they don't care about us.
Exactly.
So start there.
Yeah, that's really where it started with me. People and my friends and family would say, what do you think about this, this virus? And I said, well, let's remember, let's remember first of all that the information we're getting is from entities that are proven liars. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, you have to start there. You have to consider the source, as any good researcher would do. You got to consider the source. Right. When you get information. And if you are not questioning the information coming in from the WHO and the CDC, well, I'm here to tell you, these entities are liars. They're liars. So you got to take what they're telling you with a grain of salt.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. Hey, and we've had hey is in the chat room. Yeah, you know what, we do put our Bibles. So yeah, call us Christian fundamentalists. That's okay. I mean, we gotta have something to stand on. I mean, don't be mad at us because we stand on what we believe. You know, if you want to stand on what you believe, hey, more power to you. We're gonna just stand on what the Word of God says. We're gonna sit back and that to be true and prove that to be true over and over again. So you can't really be mad at us if we call ourselves Bible believers. We're gonna actually, and it happens to be a stationary flat, we're gonna just happen to believe it. We're gonna actually do our best to show you that is true from the beginning, and then we're gonna show you that the book talks about is true, and that's what we're doing. And so I thank you for that support. It's cool. You know.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
It's great as always.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're gonna end it way too long. It's 2:00 in the morning. So yeah.
Thanks for staying up late with me.
You know, I've had such a good time. Yeah, I've had such a good time. I don't want to end the show too early. So, and Liz hasn't even like come out of Riley's room. She like put him to sleep in there, and he fell asleep in there.
Yeah, I'm
so
sure she's asleep too.
I know she is asleep. Yeah. So, well, Paul, for being here, and we hope to have you on again, and we can talk about we can have a real flat Earth show, and I would love for you to come back on and really show us faking space, and we can just break down footage one or another, because that is so applicable to what's going on today of just breaking down the lies of this world. So. You and Michael,
that would be awesome.
That'd be an awesome show.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Thanks so much for having me. I had a great time. It was great to catch up with you guys. So